Today I'd like to talk to you about corruption associated with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. FEMA is supposed to be the first in the line of defense of a disaster, but they are truly a disaster in themselves. Your money is being used to risk life, feed corruption, and short the truly needy. I was personally affected by this when I lived on the Gulf Coast in 2005, when the aid and money that I desperately needed was delayed 6 months due to their inability to do their job. I would like to show this by explaining FEMA's purpose, the mismanagement, the fallout and consequences of this mismanagement. The best way to understand this subject is first to understand the purpose of FEMA. On April 1st, 1979, President Jimmy Carter signed an executive order to make FEMA a new agency. For the last 39 years, their mission statement is to be prepared, to prevent, to respond, and to recover to disasters. However, FEMA conducted themselves in certain critical situations so badly they failed to fulfill this purpose. Examples of this mismanagement is improper oversight and corrupted inspectors. FEMA hired many individuals that ended up having criminal background checks, which costed the agency $354,000. Not to mention untold amounts of lost money due to fraudulent claims and gross mismanagement of funds. Mishandling of these contracts were given to inexperienced and inept individuals and organizations. An example would be an Atlanta woman was awarded $154 million to provide meals, 30 million meals, to the people of Puerto Rico, but only came up with 30,000. She was fired. Another example is Whitefish Electric from Montana was awarded a $300 million contract to repair the electricity in Puerto Rico. It couldn't keep up, and they were also fired. Fallout from the inspections and these types of mishandlings was dealt with swift and harsh punishment by the Homeland Security Agency and the FBI. The results found with FEMA were embarrassing and revealing. An estimated $400 million to $1.4 billion was found defrauded the government in support of the 2005 Hurricane Katrina and the 2006 Hurricane Rita. Other examples are when federal officials investigated then New Jersey Governor Chris Christie for using Hurricane Sandy funds in support of tourism ads that had his family members in them. Another example is New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagy was convicted by a federal judge for accepting bribes that were supposed to be meant to rebuild his city from Hurricane Katrina. From poor execution to harsh backlash, FEMA is a broken agency because FEMA is supposed to be in the first line of defense in a disaster, but they are truly a disaster themselves. By knowing the purpose of FEMA, the mismanagement of FEMA, and the results of mismanagement, it is now understood that crisis breeds corruption and waste. It's up to an organization to be established to find ways to aid humanity, to keep corruption to an absolute minimum. And FEMA is a shining example of how improperly this is done and how they failed.